Welcome to another episode of Commercial Real Estate Uncovered. I'm grateful to have Ryan Pineda here with me today. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with me and having your podcast studio available.
I know you're the host today. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it's fun. I actually get Ryan's seat today. I'm moving up in the world.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of podcasts here that aren't yours?
Usually we use the other studio, but we were already set up, so we're like, just screw it.
Yeah, you have
be the host.
You have some big names running through here. We're in the lobby, and you're doing actually one with Grant Cardone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I'm sitting in the lobby. I'm just about 20 episodes into this. I'm like, the biggest names in the game are here. Obviously, you've got a massive following. Grant's one of the biggest names in the industry.
Yep.
I wanted to actually jump around a little bit. I knew who you were. It turns out we actually live in the same part of town, but we go to the same church.
Yeah.
And I have started to follow you because of that. And you really put your faith in forefront in your business. I mean, is that something you've done all along, or was that kind of something you started later in your business?
I started making content heavily during COVID. And back then, I would mention it in videos where it made sense. But back then I wasn't doing podcasts and things where you have natural conversations. I was doing more so how-to videos. And I'd be like, here's how to flip a house. Here's how to do this. And I would tell my story and I'd be like, yeah, and then I was praying and this and that. So I would always weave in elements of, faith. But it really wasn't until I started doing podcasts that it started to come out even more. And then God really convicted me a couple of years ago at one of our events because, at our big live events, one day I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do an altar call and just see what happens because people need to know. And so, we did that. And lots of people came up and gave their life to Christ. And then I held a prayer just meeting before one of the events. And, there was 1,000 people at the event and then 400 people showed up at 7 a.m. And I was like, okay, there's obviously a lot of people who are wanting this. So then we started doing worship services during these events. And these are just normal real estate business events. They're not Christian events, And so from that point forward, I just kind of started making content about it, started coming up more frequently, just like right now. I didn't force it to happen. We just happen to be talking about it, and then it'll get clipped up, and whatever happens, happens.
Do you find that people that you do business with were already people of faith, or do you think you're drawn, you're finding people who are in business and of faith, and you get drawn to because you have that connection, or you're actually getting business people, to really look at their faith more? Does that question make sense? You're drawing people to Christ, or you? Well,
I think it's both. I think there's definitely been a huge draw to Christ. A lot of people you met in this office have recently been baptized within the last few years, and so clearly the environment is shifting spiritually. I would say that from the standpoint of who it's attracting, clearly too. When you start getting really bold and public about it, you kind of push away people who don't agree, and you attract people who really believe in it. And so naturally, we've had a lot more Christians come to events and follow and all that stuff too. So I think both of those things happen.
Yeah, I think it's really awesome you do that because just the basic invitation of getting someone to go to church. Actually, the church where I met you at, a guy I work out with, just randomly texted me about a year ago and was like, hey, what are you doing Sunday? You want to go to this church with me? And I'm like, man, I've actually been thinking of doing that. And 3 weeks later, I'm volunteering. It's just good. It's just that basic invitation. So, but yeah, you're right. It's kind of interesting when you put that out there, you kind of have that concern, but you're kind of like, that's why we're walking around is to, grow the kingdom. In the best possible. It's related, unrelated, but it was funny. I ran for public office in 2020.
Oh, yeah?
And
what were you trying to run for?
State assembly.
Okay.
And I was kind of concerned that some of my clients were going to get mad and not want to work with me. And one of my clients was just like, look, the people who are going to like you are really going to like you. The people who aren't going to like you, you don't need to work with them anymore. It's kind of thinned out the people you work with. So I think it's good to take a stance with certain things and have a position because it just, I don't know. It's a good thing. So it's neat to see that. I commend you for doing that because I know that sometimes can be a little, I don't know. I know people who have kind of followed in path with that. So I guess lead by example. So I want to talk about your business and real estate. That's why we're here. My podcast is Commercial Real Estate Uncovered. I do commercial real estate broker. We have a brokerage in a couple states. And how'd you first start in real estate? What was your first real estate move?
Yeah, I got my real estate license back in 2010, so it's been 16 years now. And dude, it was the hardest time. I don't know. When did you get into it?
2005. So I was there in 2010.
Okay, so you got to see the up, then the down bad, right? And so, I mean, the average house in Vegas back then was $100,000 for a single family, and nobody wanted to buy them. I mean, there was insane amounts of inventory and no buyers. And, you know, I just remember trying to sell those $100,000 houses and tell people, I'm like, dude, this house is like 2,000 square feet and it's in a great area and it's like just built. You don't want to buy it for $100,000, and people wouldn't buy it. So after that, I just kind of got discouraged by real estate, and you know, I did it for a couple of years as a realtor, and I quit. I was like, this sucks. Why would anyone do this? Also, I mean, at the time I was a baseball player, so I was kind of just doing it on the side just to make money. I got drafted by the Oakland A's, and so that was part of just making money in the off season, trying to, you know, hustle. But yeah, after a couple of years, I just got into all these different hustles and everything else. I was flipping couches and, you know, trying to just do anything to make a buck, but actually get a job, you know? And around 2015, that shifted. I got back into real estate, but this time as a house flipper. I learned about hard money. I learned about finding deals, learned a little bit about wholesaling. And I was like, okay, if I'm the buyer, then this is going to be easy because I'm good at finding deals. If I got to deal with other people and convince them to buy, I don't want to do this. So, you know, I started buying houses, and I maxed out all my credit cards. I didn't have money. And thankfully it worked out. You know, one house turned into two turned into four turned into 10. And, you know, since then, I mean, we've probably done 7, 8, maybe 900 wholesales and flips at this point.
And now that's a lot of sales.
Yeah.
Do you, so now you're primarily, what you're focused on is coaching people how to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have a ton of businesses, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's true. But as far as like the real estate specifically, do you own your own rental properties, or do you kind of focus on the teaching the wholesaling and flipping?
So right now we have, let's see, I mean, last year, I mean, every year we've done over 7 figures in flips and wholesale. So even right now, you know, I think this month we've closed $190,000 in wholesale fees this month. So I still actively operate the business. On the rental property side, I've done a lot of different things with rentals. You know, I bought Airbnbs back in 2017, way before it was like super popular. So I had a portfolio of like at least 10 Airbnbs out in Big Bear, California, and they did really well. Sold a bunch of them, still on a few to this day. I bought single families here in Vegas whenever, you know, they made sense, nice areas that I wanted to keep. Then I got into the fund game in 2021, literally the worst time ever in hindsight. But we started raising capital, bought multifamily all across the country. And so right now I think we own like 500 something units.
Of apartments.
And I bought land and other things. So
are there any markets you're like bullish on in 2026?
Honestly, I'm just personally not trying to buy any rentals or long-term holds or anything right now. I mean, the reality is almost nothing cash flows.
Yeah.
You know? True. So it's like, what am I doing?
Where do you, like, what opportunities are you seeing? Like, where, like right now, if somebody was brand new into the business world and they're a W-2 employee making $80,000 a year, like what kind of opportunity are you seeing? Like, where would you tell them to invest?
Well, if you're only making $80,000 a year, not investing.
All right, well, let's jump the income up. Let's say 200.
Yeah, well, and I think that's important to note because I think there's a lot of people who make $80,000 a year.
100%.
And they're like, dude, I want to own rental properties. And I'm like, no, you don't. You will literally lose everything you have trying to own rental properties making $80,000 a year. Like, one repair is going to destroy you if you make $80,000 a year.
Yeah.
You know, one vacancy, one eviction, you're toast. You know, you just don't make enough money.
It literally just happened to me 2 weeks ago at a rental house I have. They had a sewer issue, and like that.
You don't make $80,000 a year though, so you can afford to weather the storm, right?
I could, but that totally made that house not. You know, it's not going to net this year because of what I had to put into it. But
exactly,
it is what it is.
And you can absorb the loss, but those people can't absorb it. They're going to get foreclosed on.
Yeah.
And so, or sell at a loss because it's distressed now. So I always tell people, it's like, look, you got to understand what your position is. If you're making $80,000 a year or less, or, you know, whatever, you have an active income problem. You should not think like an investor. You should be starting a business and making active income. So I will always push that person to get into wholesaling or flipping houses because they need to figure out how to make more money, point blank. Now, if you're making $200,000, like you said, and you know you got a good corporate job or whatever, and you're doing great, yeah, you can start buying rentals right now. But you got to understand today, you know, every rental that you look at for the most part, like you're not gonna, you've kind of been sold the lie that you're gonna retire off passive income. That's been like this rich dad, poor dad thing and bigger pockets thing for like 10, 20 years, and it's just not true anymore. It was true when it was written. It was true when it was happening. In 2010, it was true. It is not true today. Like, the average house in Las Vegas right now is $500,000. Okay, the mortgage on the $500,000 is going to be like $3,500. It literally rents for like $2,000.
Yeah.
What are you like? You just going to go buy rentals right now? Like, it's stupid. And if you're going to go and put a ton of capital down to try and make it cash flow, so you're going to go put 6 figures down to make $200 a month. Like, why in the world would you do that?
Yeah, there's a lot of other things you could put your money into.
You get way better returns. Yeah. And I'm a real estate guy. I'm pro real estate, but it just doesn't make any sense today. So, no, I don't even think the guy making $200,000 should even like, if they're looking at it from the point of, hey, I want to make cash flow and passive income, because that's what they always say. I want passive income. It ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Now, if you're like, hey, I want tax write-offs and I want appreciation and principal pay down, and I'm willing to hold this for the next 10, 20 years, and I want to build long-term wealth, I'll say, okay, buy a rental. Just literally don't expect to make anything from it for the next decade.
That's good advice. Have you, just shifting, I've seen this with a lot of my clients. I'm a commercial real estate broker, and we buy and sell deals as principals as well. And we're looking a lot more of just like the cash flow. Have you dove into this big, beautiful bill with the new cost segregation and depreciation
that's
stuff?
Great.
Where are there any highlights of that bill that came out that you're looking forward to see being law as far as the tax code is coming out?
I mean, there's already tons of stuff that is already coming out. One of our companies that I work with, it's called Taylor Tax. And so we actually do a webinar on the big, beautiful bill and
oh, you
depreciation.
do?
Yep. So
what's that called?
Taylor Tax.
Taylor Tax.
Yeah, you can go to Taylor, TAYLOR-tax.com. But yeah, like one of the businesses I started over the years was a tax firm, not Taylor Tax, a different one. We built it to multiple 7 figures. I sold it and, moved on. And now I'm back working with these guys and doing it again.
So pivoting here a little bit, the minute we walked into your office, your team was like right on it. They said hi to us. They said, your time frame of coming in, gave us a tour. Like they knew exactly what to do and made us feel welcome, which was really cool to see. How did you build like a team culture? And like, how did you realize, like, I don't know how many employees you have, and I don't know if that's something you want to mention, but you've got a big team. Like, how did you, I don't know what to say master, but figure out how to do that?
I don't even know how many we have right now. If I had to guess virtual and in person, probably like 50 or something. It just comes from doing it over and over again. I mean, I think at this point, I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I've started so many businesses over the years. I mean, I've started at least 20 businesses in the last decade.
So you know how to build a team?
Yeah, I mean, I know how to create products, marketing strategies, build a team around it. And every product I've ever created did not involve like me having to fulfill it. So, like if we're talking even education, like we said, like I don't coach people like that. Like my team does. We have coaches, we have all the good stuff, and they're better than me. They'll help those people out. Like I don't want to do the stuff. Like I want to do what I like doing, which is just creating offers, creating products, and scaling them. And then I'll let everyone else handle the rest.
Do you have any influences that you like? Do you personally have like a business coach or somebody that you meet with about talking about your plan, like 2026 plan, like growth plan and execution plan?
I mean, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaches from everything you can imagine. I mean, I hired Tony Robbins' event coach last year because I was like, you know what? I think we could throw our events better. And so I paid her 6 figures to teach us how to throw events and help us with all of our events. I've paid ad agency coaches to teach us how to do ads better. I've paid business coaches to teach me how to do organizational structure and culture and SOPs and all that stuff. Content coaches, health coaches. I got a golf coach right now because I got to get better at golf because I got a golf company now.
That's awesome.
So I always just hire the best. We're actually, it sounds scatterbrained, but maybe it is. I'm getting into, I'm going to build this Christian collectibles company. I've kind of alluded to it because I was just thinking, we have a nonprofit and I'm like, how can I fund the nonprofit? I can go ask for more donations, or I can build something that, can be sold to fund the nonprofit. And so I've just noticed that Christian collectibles aren't like a thing, right? If I wanted to go buy my kids some Jesus toys or anything from the Bible, like there's no good toys. And it's like, why are there all these Marvel toys and all this other stuff? There's these little boo-boos and random things, but there ain't no good Christian toys. That's a problem. So I'm going to go and make one. But I know nothing about making toys. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go hire the best people in the world to show me how to source toys, market toys, and do that.
That's a really, I like that idea because you're 100% right. You go to church and you see kids running around with that stuff. Why not have
Why is there no good
toys?
Christian ones?
No, that's a really good question. I never thought of it. Even as a kid, is it like youth groups and stuff like that?
There's nothing.
There's nothing.
And that's why, for me, I'm an observer of the world. I just kind of look at the world and I'm like, okay, what is underserved? What is on the rise? Golf is clearly on the rise. Private courses are getting more expensive. Social media with it's continuing to get bigger and bigger with YouTube golf. More and more people are taking it up. You look at guys like LeBron James and Kevin Hart, and they're all playing golf now and talking about it. And it's like, okay, so clearly this industry is on the up and up. And I love golf. I'm a good golfer, So it's like, what do I make of this? What is underserved right now? And, the company we just launched, Mastermind 19, is literally my fastest growing thing ever. And is because it's serving something I just observed in the world.
When did you launch that?
We launched it August 1st. We started pre-sale, and then September 1st, we launched officially.
And is that kind of more like a proximity thing?
Yeah. I mean, the 1-minute version is a peer-to-peer networking group for entrepreneurs who love golf.
Okay.
So think of a EO, YPO, Tiger 21 deal, if you're familiar with those. But the thing that binds us together is everybody makes over 7 figures and they love golf. And so basically these guys pay to join and they pay annual dues. And they can go golf with members all across the country. So you're in Vegas. If I'm going to Phoenix, I'll hit up a member in Phoenix. We'll go play at his club, whatever. And so you're bound together in that way. But then the other main thing that people love is that we go on trips. And so right now we're going every 45 days to bucket list golf destinations. So we're going to Pebble Beach in April. We're going to Pinehurst in March. We just got back from Kiowa Island a week ago. And so these guys can go on those trips with 30 other people. And we just mastermind, hang out, golf the best courses in the world, and then talk business.
I got thrown out of Pebble Beach because my motorcycle was too loud. That's a beautiful. Have you played there before?
I'm gonna for the first time in April.
You mentioned EO and YPO. Are you the Entrepreneurs Organization and Young Presidents Organization? Are you part of any of those kind of networking groups?
I was in YPO for I think 3 or 4 years. At the time I was the youngest member in Vegas.
Oh, were you? Yeah, I'm in EO.
Yeah.
It's actually a guy, the toys thing. I can mention it when we're done, but there's actually a guy who's in that business. I don't know if you introduce you to him. So talking about those kind of proximity.
Yeah. That's
groups,
exactly what it is for golf.
For golf. Is there something you do as far as proximity, or do you feel you're kind of at a level now where you have your sphere? I mean, you mentioned Grant Cardone's coming in. I've watched some of your podcasts with Dave Ramsey and stuff. Do you feel like you kind of have a group that helps you accountable and grow and
Well, I think guys like Cardone and stuff, he's definitely not holding me accountable. He's busy doing stuff way more important than holding me accountable. We're just friends, right?
No, I got it. But I just mean in general.
No, I know. Look, I look at accountability in 2 ways. So one is I have a weekly Bible study that we hold here at my office every Wednesday. I've literally been doing that now for almost 10 years, every week.
Okay.
And that was actually how the nonprofit started because, once again, this goes back to observing underserved things in the world. And Pastor Jabin wouldn't have a problem with me saying this, but one of the problems with most churches is they don't have small groups all the time. It's always a season. It's hey, we're going to do this. It's small group season. We do it for 6 weeks and then it's over. I don't like that. I think that we should always be in community at a much deeper level all the time because that's what Jesus did with the 12. And that's the only way to have true accountability with what's going on in your life and my life and really dive into the Word. And so because no churches were doing it on a consistent basis, I said, I'll just do it myself. And so every week, people from all types of churches come to my office and we read the Bible. It's this revolutionary idea, but it's all we do every week. And then people started asking why can't I do that? Where can I find one in my group or my city? And I'm I don't know. Churches just don't do it. So finally, I said, we'll just do it. So, we built the nonprofit and started doing it. And we launched these Bibles. We have over 100 that meet every single week across the country. And I think we'll get to 500 this year. But it's just observing something that's not being done. And you have a choice when you're, I guess, someone like me who has the ability to execute on it. You either do it or you don't. But anyways, the reason I say that is because I don't even remember proximity and people and accountability, right? That's how I'm held accountable spiritually. And that's the most important thing I need accountability on. People who know my life. It has nothing to do with business. It's like, bro, are you living right? Are you walking right? How's your marriage? How's your kids? I need that level of accountability first and foremost. Now, what about being around high-level business people? Because I also need to be inspired. I need to learn things that I just don't know. It's literally why I created M19, because I think the average business owner in our group is doing anywhere between 5 to 10 million a year in revenue. So it's like these, and they're on all kinds of industries, you know? And so I can talk to these guys. What are you seeing in the tech space? What are you seeing in the real estate space? What are you seeing in the home services space? We have them all. And it just kind of gives me now perspective, once again, of like the world and what's happening while playing golf.
We add two things. It's fun. I do. There's a group of guys in town that are all like very prominent, like developers and real estate. They own real estate companies and stuff. And I love motorcycles. And I never got invited to go ride with these guys until I bought a Ducati. And the minute I got a Ducati,
now you get the invite.
They're like, you can come along now. But I've mentioned this before. The conversations when we're getting gas are like, you know, some guy who's built hundreds of millions of dollars worth of industrial space. Like the way he looks at life and a deal and stuff, it's like that 5 minutes is worth more than a semester of a lot of classes, at least for me. I know some people. That's why I ask about the proximity thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, and YPO was that for me for a while. Like, you know, you're talking about commercial real estate. One of my friends, Eric Cohen, who's built so much stuff out here with Kalita Group, you know, I met him in YPO, and now we're buddies, and he golfs now too. And so it's funny just like watching him evolve into that journey. But it's like, dude, if somebody like him has built literally billions of multifamily deals and development, it's like, who else am I going to learn from that's done more? He's like the biggest, one of the biggest in the world.
And that stuff is just invaluable. I want to ask you about some like lessons you've learned from failures.
I have a lot of those.
Well, pick like two. I'm curious if there's like you had a big one, like something that you.
I feel like this, really. I feel like your guy every time like I do a podcast. I just go deep on failure.
That's great. That's exactly what I want, Austin. He's just bringing out failures. No, I mean we learn lessons in our failures, and I've had plenty.
I've been sued for TCPA many times.
Oh well. That means you've got an aggressive team.
We do. We made a lot of calls,
dude. I heard a story. I heard a story the other day. We've got some junior agents in our office that are cold calling, and I've seen some insane stuff in this town. I thought my stories took the take. This guy walked in, unlocked door. He was cold calling warehouse spaces. Walked into an unlocked office that's attached to a warehouse, and this guy, how can I put this? He was having a little bit too much fun with himself while watching adult content. Like the stuff you see. Cold calling is just bananas. But anyways, what's like a golden lesson you've learned on like a failure? And if you don't mind sharing that failure, I know it's a broad question, but I don't want to navigate it too much.
To give you two topics, I've talked about these on other podcasts before. So I'll give you a real estate one, and I'll give you a general one. So real estate wise, my biggest failure came in 22 when rates dropped. So a lot of people got killed, or rose, I mean. A lot of people got killed when that happened, and a lot of people's businesses went sideways, or they just, you know, started bleeding. They're just not getting business and whatever. I got killed because I was sitting on so much debt. You know, I had like $20 million worth of hard money loans on all these flips, and paying $200,000 a month in interest on vacant properties. And, you know, the market turned. They dropped in value, ended up losing millions, paid them all off, and, you know, was able to recoup my investors. But man, it was a painful personal lesson. It cost me so much money. It was insane. But I wanted to make sure that, like, you know, I've been a guy who paid back his investors, you know, on the deal, on the terms that we agreed to. And, you know, if I say, hey, you know what, I'm taking up all the upside, you're just getting interest, and so be it. And so that was painful. And I think the lesson I learned from that was, for me anyways, I didn't need to keep that much risk on the table. And I talked to Dave Ramsey about this because, you know, Dave is anti-debt, and I'm not anti-debt. I have debt. But I've now been on the side like Dave where I got my butt kicked. I didn't go bankrupt like Dave, thankfully. But like, I am now like, yo, why did I keep so much debt on the table and such risky debt when I had all these other businesses that were making me a ton of money? Those businesses made me more money than those house flips, yet the house flips carried 100 times more risk and liability. Like, it just wasn't an equal, proposition. So now I don't even really flip houses too much anymore. We just wholesale because it has no risk. So that was one thing. Like, I just did not analyze risk properly back then because everything I ever started just crushed. It just did. I was just so good at launching anything and everything, and it always crushed until it didn't. So that was number one, like, experience massive failure on that front. Failure number two was kind of the same idea, but just in general business. Because I've started so many things, I just named like 5 different ones randomly because they applied, but I've started lots of other things. And, a lot of times when you're an observer of the world, you just start trend-based businesses. And so I've gotten into crypto, I've gotten into e-commerce, I've gotten into a whole bunch of things. And a couple of them ended up just being trends. And when something's a trend and it doesn't last forever, then it doesn't last forever. And there's going to be consequences. And so for me, I've ended up in lawsuits, I've ended up with stained reputation when things fail. And, at the end of the day, you just kind of look at it all, and all you can do is learn from it and decide how you want to approach things going forward. So for me, that's been something I've had to learn is like, what do I say yes to and what do I say no to? Because there's no shortage of good ideas that I have. And I know I have no problem getting them going and off the ground very quickly and very easily. But how do I build things that are going to have longevity and sustain and that can, continue to just make money and serve people and everything else, or be sold and, exit or whatever, versus just doing something because I know it can make money and people are buying it, but it may not last forever.
The filter for risk changes very quickly when you have failures, especially when you have debt, like on real estate. I've been in that same position where like things don't go the way you plan, and you're like, holy smokes, I have this massive monthly payment, and like that makes you more risk adverse, definitely. So that can be a painful lesson, but that goes on with time and experience. You mentioned Dave Ramsey. I'm a huge fan of his. Like I mentioned, I got into some trouble early on in my early 20s, taking on too much debt when I thought the market was going to rebound, and it didn't. What do you think about his whole thing as like where he's like, if you have the cash, even if you have like a 3% interest rate, you should pay it off immediately. Like, what's your take on that kind of stuff?
I used to be a big Dave hater. And I told him this when I interviewed him. I said, dude, you know what, man? Like, I was a big hater, but now that I've been punched in the face from debt, like, I see where you're coming from now. And I'm much less much more risk averse than I used to be, which is still, by the way, like ultra risky compared to most people. I went from just literally zero fear to like, I'll just go gunsling whatever I feel like and go crush it, to now I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go crush it, but I'm gonna have a little bit of, caution with what I'm doing. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, if I'm being honest, do I think Dave believes every single word he says? Maybe. But, at this point, he's basically like a stubborn old guy.
He is a stubborn old guy.
Yeah,
I've never met him, but
yeah, like and it's just like, bro, at this point, there will be nothing that changes his mind. You could give him any evidence and whatever, but because he said this for the last 40 years, he ain't changing his tune anytime soon.
Yeah,
he's gonna take it to the grave, even if he doesn't believe it. Because I think somebody said, well, Dave, you wouldn't take a loan at 0%? He's like, nope.
Yeah, I saw that clip.
And it's like, really?
Yeah, for 10 years or something, and they're like, you wouldn't put it on like treasury, like some really secure investment. He's like, nope.
Yeah, and it's like, okay. Like, I don't know that you really believe that, but I understand that you're just, whatever. So anyways, there's that. Here's my whole thing of it. I mean, obviously Dave is huge in Christian circles. I think as I've gotten older, I realize his advice is great for 90% of people.
Yeah.
The majority of the world is in debt. They don't know how to get out. They also don't know how to make more money. They have no desire to take risk and be an entrepreneur. So if that is your disposition, then it is what it is. Like, this is the way out. If you're 10% of the world like us, the way out is make more money.
Yes.
So I'm like, if I'm in a problem, how can I innovate and be creative and create something that could get me out of the situation or get me to what I desire? And that's just how I think.
It's a clever line. I was with a friend of mine in Newport Beach last weekend. He moved from Las Vegas to Newport, and the taxes in California are obviously more
Yeah.
And I was like, how are you dealing with this? He's like, easy problem, just make more money.
Yep.
It's the simplest way you could do it, but sometimes easier said than done. But I want to ask you about managing relationships. I would say you're a public figure, like you've got a really big online presence. Like as you've grown in like kind of the public space, like how do you manage your time and like dealing with relationships of people who might have known you and now want, maybe more access to you, or like, I know this is a lot of things, but like managing friends in your time and business relationships. Do you have some sort of golden trick to managing relationships?
Yeah, my podcast is called The Wealthy Way Podcast. And I wrote a book called Wealthy Way, where it really is, if I really think about it at its core, it is a time management book. Because people started to ask me even back then, how do you run so many businesses? How do you still serve and do faith stuff? How do you, manage a family and, stay healthy and all the things? And I was like, I don't know, dude, it's pretty simple. Like, you just got to prioritize. And they're like, but like, how? And I'm like, all right, I'm going to write this down. And so I kind of like outlined some different things that I do that help me like manage my time. Because at the end, it's not even managing relationships, it's managing time. And it's allocating enough time to the relationships that matter. So for example, I have decided that in my life and in my business, this has been going on for the last, 10 years. And it's just now that I'm public, like people can go fact check it because I just literally live it out. But, I basically said, look, I don't work the weekends. Most entrepreneurs will tell you they work the weekends. I don't. And you can go just look at the last 6 years on social media. Just don't. You'll see me at church every Sunday. Like I just don't work. What about everything else? I work 9 to 5 on the weekdays. That's it. I don't stay late. I'm out. I'm going home and I'm having dinner. What if things aren't done? What if there's problems in business? Well, I should be better at business. Why does my family have to suffer? Because I suck at business. That's my mindset. Get better. And that's always my mindset with people. I mean, this is the mindset I always had as an athlete. We had a saying in the minor leagues. I was making $1,200 a month. They were like, this is so bad that, they don't pay us anything. We got to deal with motels and buses and blah, blah, blah. And there would always be a coach or somebody else who says, well, if you don't like it, play better. Because the reality is, if you play better, you get to the big leagues. It's that simple. And so I always just tell people, you don't like your situation, well, play better. Meaning go make more money, get more skilled, run your business better. If you work 14 hours a day and you don't have the life that you want, you're just not good enough. Get better. And that's the truth. And so I always told myself, I said, man, I want to run a big business. I want to also be a great husband. I want to be a great dad. I want to serve. I want to stay in shape. I also want to golf. It has to be possible somehow. And a lot of people think it's not possible right away. They live in this mindset of, well, I'll grind X years until I'm this age, and then I'll do it. Newsflash, your kids are old. You missed their childhood. You're older now. You have more stress. Your energy is less. Everything gets harder as you get older. So for me, I'm like, I'm enjoying my life every day today. I do not care if I don't make as much money as humanly possible. I think I'm talented enough to make a ton of money in this time frame, and it's all dependent on my skill. And so I work 9 to 5. And before 9, I get my workouts in, I get my quiet time in, I get my prayers in, I read my Bible. After 5, it's all family time. Just hang out with my kids, do whatever. Weekends, just hang out with my kids, do whatever. And it's great. So I think it's just, how do you manage relationships and time? It's all just part of how do you value time. Like, because people will text me all the time. They're coming to Vegas and they're like, hey, can you get dinner? And I say, no. Like, well, why not? Like, because I've literally made a commitment to my family that I have dinner with them, not you. So it just is what it is, Now, does that mean that I can't see them? I say, no, why don't you come to my office from 9 to 5? I will willingly sacrifice work time to go hang out with you and spend time with you. Let's actually go play a round of golf. You know what? I'll sacrifice my Friday that I would have spent working at the office. I'll go play golf with you. Like, I still see people, but I just do it from a different time bucket. I will always steal from work before I steal from my family. Because the reality is everything in life can be delegated except for time with people that you love. Like, I can delegate work all day. That's what we're talking about. You could literally make as much money as you humanly want and not work hours to do it. It's called building a great business. But there's no amount of way I can spend time with my family and delegate it. I'm not going to go, hey, go hang out with my wife in place of me. Go hang out with my kids in place of me. That can't happen. I can't delegate my time working out. Nobody's going to put in the work but me, but to stay in shape. I can't delegate my faith. Only I can have my relationship with God and the amount of effort I put into it. But you know the one thing I can delegate? My business. And it can make infinite amounts of money just based on how skilled I am. But we entrepreneurs have it backwards. We're like, my business has to have me work 12 hours a day. And I go, well, if that's what you think, then you've already failed. You've limited your thinking.
You know, the other thing with that is burnout. People who do that, there's a couple of guys in my office that are, 7-figure earners.
Yeah.
And those guys are in the office, like you said, business hours, they with their kids on weekends, and they get more out of that time than people do that are doing the 12-hour days because they're burnt out. I mean, it's just like
it's called Parkinson's law. There's a law that says if you give yourself the amount of time to do something, you will take the full amount of time. So if you say, hey, I'm going to work 12-hour days. Okay, in your mind, you're like, these are the tasks I have to accomplish. I have 12 hours to do it. So you elongate it over 12. But if you say, I only got 6 hours to do it, but this is what has to get done, if you're good, you'll figure out a way to get it done in 6.
I learned that at a Tony Robbins thing. He uses the example of cleaning your house. If you give yourself the weekend, you're going to take the weekend. If you give yourself an hour. I used that this weekend. I wanted to go ride my motorcycle, and I'm like, I got to pick up the house. 1 hour, done. Yep. And I got to go ride my motorcycle. So that's you answered a bunch of my questions with the time blocking thing. No, I think it's really important that people hear that as far as like spending time with your family, because we're already we're in 2026. It's February. Like 1/12 of this year is almost over. I was telling your team, we're already planning Christmas time with my family for next year. I've got family that lives overseas, so it's like know that I think that's a really good thing for people to hear that you do that religiously because. Time gets away from you. What about this? I'm always curious about. I take fitness really seriously. What's your fitness routine? How do you with your health? Are you or like a 4 a.m. guy, or do you?
So it's funny. I'm acquiring a fitness business, so that's something that we're going to launch in the next 30 days. It's actually a business that I paid for consulting from, and they coached me up and got me in the best shape of my life. And then they've always wanted to do stuff together, and so now we're finally going to do it. So I'm excited about that. But
can you share anything more about that, or is that not at that stage yet?
It's going to launch in the next 30 days.
Oh, okay, well, we got that out of you.
Yeah.
Breaking on this show, no.
Yeah, well, and it is everything you need for fitness in terms of accountability, meals. Cool. We'll do all your meal prep for you, workouts, hormones, peptides. Everything all in one. So, anyways, it's really good. But my current routine, I really have kept the same routine since I played pro sports. I mean, I don't really know any other way to live. That's just how I grew up my whole life. And so by the time I retired, I was like, well, I'm not going to stop working out. I'm going to not stop training like an athlete. In my mind, I'm still an athlete. I'm not a business guy. I still think like an athlete, which is why golf has been so cool for me because it's given me like another outlet to be competitive. But yeah, I mean, I work out 4 days a week, hour lift. I lift super heavy. I don't do high reps. I just lift really heavy. And then if I have time, I'll do 15 minutes of cardio, 15 minutes in the sauna. I have a home gym, and I do that 4 days a week. And then if I feel like it on the weekends, I'll just do 15 minutes of cardio and 15 minutes in the sauna. But that's it. I'm curious about your thought about this. Real estate. There's a lot of real estate that's based around, especially here in Las Vegas, drinking and going out and happy hours and stuff like that. I know you mentioned you're done at 5 o'clock. I quit going to happy hours and nighttime things years ago, but there's a lot of young agents, smart guys that are like, hey, I have to go to these things, and they end up going out and making mistakes. You see them in the morning, they're all hungover and really like, what do you think about like the networking, like the kind of the status quo of like these like happy hours or networking things that are based around like alcohol and that kind of stuff? Look, I mean, I'm not anti-alcohol. I drink old fashions. I would say it just depends who you are. So like, so the young guys who don't have a lot going on, they're not married and whatever. All right, whatever. Go to them, man. Go meet people, and you'll meet some high-level people because you probably don't got money if you're young and you're just trying to figure things out. Yeah. It's like, all right, like it's probably one of the better uses of your time because you don't really have much valuable time yet. But then, as you reach a certain level, they become less and less valuable for you. And so you got to know when that time is. But But yeah, I mean, look, meetups were a big part of what I did in 2015 when I first started flipping houses. I remember there was all these meetups in town, and I was like, somebody told me, they're like, attend meetups. And I'm like, okay. So I started going to these meetups, and I hadn't done any, house flips yet, and I'm meeting people who had done like 1 or 2 deals. And I'm like, this is crazy. This guy did 1 or 2 deals. If this guy could do 1 or 2 deals, frick, I could do this. And I did. And then eventually, after a few years, I got really good, and I said, okay, these meetups are now a waste of time because there's a bunch of people not doing crap. But I'm going to hold my own meetups. So around 2018, I started holding my own meetups, and they were much higher level because now I was attracting higher level people as a higher level guy. And so the meetups actually became valuable because I was the host, and then people would send me deals. They'd start investing with me. So it was actually a very high level thing to do. But then that turned into our big, massive conferences because at that point, as your status grows, then just like more and more people wanted to come and they're willing to pay for it and all these things. And so that turned into big conferences and everything else. But what I would say to the people is like, obviously you get what you pay for. If something is free, you are going to hang around usually free level people.
Yeah.
If something is, you pay a lot. Like that's the thing with the golf mastermind. The reason these people are joining, we literally get somebody who joins every day and they pay 10 grand to join. We've been averaging 30 new members every month. And, the reason they join is because first off, they know it's 10 grand to join. So they're like, this ain't obviously, people aren't paying 10 grand to join a golf group if they're broke. Secondly, we vet them. We ask them literally the first question, how much money you make? Because we have income thresholds to qualify you. And then the third thing is like, hey, if you want to go on trips, that's extra too. So clearly like the people who come on golf trips to hang out are well-off people. You just know the caliber when you go based on how much money it costs to even be there in the first place makes you qualified. So in the end, the more something costs, usually the higher the caliber the person is.
That's such a true lesson. I go heli skiing with my brothers once a year, and we were in Alaska, not an inexpensive thing to go do.
Yeah.
And I actually ended up doing a deal with a guy I met there. He called me like 2 months later out of the blue and was like, hey, like there's a client I want to introduce you to. Anyways, we ended up selling somebody he knew a building just because of the proximity we were at, which is rich people do rich people things, and
all the
rich
time.
people. You're in a lot of different field points. Like you've got a bunch of different business. How do you stay up to date on like the information you actually need to stay up to date on? I know the news. No, I mean the news every day. I turn on the news and it's we're invading this country or dollars devaluing, tariffs this, like it's hard to filter that stuff out. And like I try to stay up to date. I have my own methods, but I'm curious how you stay up to date on the stuff that you need to stay up to date on.
Yeah, to be honest, I was never a big news guy. For the past bunch of years, I literally what I knew was what people told me. I just didn't watch it at all. I'm like, they lowered rates? Sweet. Thanks for letting me know. Like, if it's big enough, I will hear about it from just my staff, people I'm talking to or whatever. But this year I did, ever since Charlie Kirk died, I decided to get more political because I was just really convicted. I'm like, dude, okay, if I have I have influence and authority, and clearly there's just people acting a fool since he died. Just all these crazy people just celebrating his death, and
it's so sad.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And just such like uninformed people. It just made me realize like, man, we really need to talk about these issues. Like, it's not enough to just teach people how to make money. And at the end of the day, Jesus says the number one thing is to go and create disciples of all nations, right? And so the first thing that we need to be doing is making disciples, first and foremost. From that point forward, everything else is secondary. And I just kind of feel like, yeah, it's cool to talk about helping people get financially better.
What does that mean with your getting more politically involved? What are you doing with that?
I'm starting to talk about it. Okay. So I'm starting to talk about, these things that happen. Trump in Venezuela, Trump and, rates. And, he's doing a lot of stuff with housing now and preventing these institutions from buying up single families. And
what do you think of that?
Beautiful bill. I don't think it's going to do anything.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Cardone about it tomorrow, but they make up such a small portion of the actual purchases. Yeah. Like, it's not going to... But in terms of like it not doing anything from that standpoint, if it brings consumer confidence because they think it's going to, then that's good,
A lot of times it's just the vibe that people are putting out. Like
Right.
positive messaging goes a long way.
For
Like,
sure. And now they're like, okay, I'm willing to buy a house now. Not going to have to compete against these funds. It's like, you didn't really have to compete with them anyway, but if that's what helps you do it, then great.
Dude, I watched Steve Wynn talk about that, where he talked about how his property was the happiest property.
Yeah.
And he pays his people more because if they're having their problems working there, that's going to project onto the people trying
People
to have a good
gamble
time.
more.
Yeah. No, he just made the point. If our staff is happy, that means it's going to attract people to our property, and we're all going to make more money. So
Yeah.
he did a really good interview about that. What is a book that you would tell an entrepreneur to read that is an absolute must read?
I
I know, loaded question.
well, it's obvious. It's the Bible.
The Bible.
I mean,
I walked right into that one.
Yeah,
I
but-
should have said instead of the Bible, but
well,
no, please.
Let me
elaborate on that.
Well, I'll elaborate on this too, because it's not as like simple as it sounds. Clearly, salvation is the most important thing, right? We spend so much time thinking about our problem today, or where we're going to be in 5 years, 10 years, and our financial freedom number and our retirement number. And the reality is it all goes away like that. The Bible tells us we are nothing but a mist in the grand scheme of our time here on earth. Like, we're this, and eternity is infinite. And yet we're so concerned about this little problem that we have today. And so we spend so much time thinking about all that, when the reality is we need to spend way more time thinking about eternity, because that is so much longer. And so if we don't ever really understand what we believe is going to happen, like I always tell people this, I go, look, it's very logical to think through, hey, I need this amount of money. I need this, I need that. That's all. You really need to think about that. But logically speaking, if you know that eternity is infinite and you're not clear on what's going to happen in eternity, you're unsure, even to the slightest, it is literally stupid to not go and solve that problem. That problem of eternity is so much more important than your current problem happening today. And it's hard to see because this is now and that is in the future, but it might not be in the future. It might be tomorrow. And, so not answering that question and just delaying it is logically so dumb. Like you have to have an answer for that question. If the answer is I don't know, that's not smart, because you're going to have to answer it at some point, and it's guaranteed that you're going to have to answer that question. Whether you believe Jesus or not, you are going to die, and you have to answer that question. So that's number one on why people should read the Bible, because I believe there's only one answer. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. This is a very singular statement. There is no other path but me. It's not Muhammad. It's not this guy. It's not Buddha. It's not Joseph Smith. It's none of this. It's Jesus. That's one. Two becomes, okay, Bible gives me the answer to that, but what else does the Bible give me answers to? Well, it actually gives you practical wisdom today that actually is more wisdom than any other book in the world. I mean, we have so much writings on how to run a business, how to treat people, how to serve people, how to be a great leader. Jesus was the greatest leader who ever lived. Solomon was the wisest person who ever lived. Solomon was the richest person who ever lived. Wouldn't we want to read the teachings of these people? And, I had, speaking of big guys, I had John Maxwell actually in here. This was like a year ago. And he was holding an event right here in our workshop space. And I've been able to talk to John a few times over the years. But I had to speak right after him. So, John's talking about all this stuff, and people are asking him, like, John, what's the best book that you've written that I need to read? And John's written like 100 books. And so he gives some recommendations, and he goes, and somebody asked a question about faith and stuff. And they're like, how do you put faith in your books? Because you used to be a pastor and, you guys do all these things. And he's like, honestly, all of my books are just based on the Bible. I just take biblical principles and turn them into digestible books that anyone can read. So anyways, I heard him say that. I get on the stage after. And, dude, I'm like a very just to the point, if you can't tell. And so I go, guys, how many of you guys have like read the Bible front to back? Show of hands. Very few in the room. I go, okay, how many of you guys have read a John Maxwell book front to back? Everybody. How many of you guys have read like 5? A lot of hands. And I go, do you guys realize he just told you he dilutes his books? Like they're diluted versions of this. You would rather read that than the source. That's not wise. If I was going to go learn from somebody, I would want to learn from the source and have the absolute truth, the unfiltered, watered down version. And it's right here, guys. And he's telling you that this is the source. I was like, you got to read this.
That's well said. It's interesting with like the faith stuff. I've strayed more times than I choose to count, but it's crazy when I get around, believers and I go to church and I like read the Bible. It's like my life is just honestly like it's calmer. The waters are a lot calmer. There's less drama. There's like it's kind of an elementary way. My life is just better when I go to those things. Question with you, but going back to the faith-based thing. If there's somebody who's I'm sure they've been poked in different ways. Hey, you should check out this church thing. You should check out Jesus. Like if somebody's never been exposed to religion and they would check it out, what would you tell them? Like if you bumped into them at a coffee shop, what would you tell them as far as like the easiest way to get exposed or introduced to a church?
Yeah. For me, anyways, my answer is a little bit different than maybe others would answer on this podcast. But for me, I say, hey, come to one of our Bible studies. And the reason I invite them to our Bible study versus say, hey, go to church. Like, if you send them to church, church is great. It's awesome. Like, they're going to go. They're going to hear a message from the pastor. They're going to hear songs, and then they're going to leave. The reason I do the Bible study is because it is a conversation. And so, like, they're going to come. There's way less people. There's like 10 of us, 12 of us, whatever. They're going to have to speak and talk about what's going on in their life. They're going to hear from other guys who got jacked up lives too. And they're going to hear actual testimonies and be able to have feedback and conversation about these things that we're discussing right here, right now. And so it's just a better way of learning than, just being talked at for 30 minutes.
Kind of more exposed to small groups are great.
Yeah.
So it's we're in the first month of 2026. Where do you think, this is a big question, but where do you think our economy is going to go in 2026?
This is a good question. I'm actually interested to ask Grant that tomorrow.
Okay.
I do want to hear his perspective too. Because my perspective is a mix of all the other perspectives.
How'd you end up in Las Vegas?
I'm born and raised.
Oh, you're born and raised, so you're here.
Yeah.
What about Vegas projections? Like, what are you excited about the stuff we've got going on here?
Yeah, I mean, nationwide in Vegas, from a general economy perspective, I think this year will be better than last year. On all fronts, I think real estate will have more transaction volume. I think I don't think prices are going to shoot up by any means. I think they're going to plateau or slightly go up. And I just think overall it'll be better than last, but still nothing crazy, Hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll start to see some accelerated growth. And I think AI and other things can help cause that.
What do you think of this whole AI boom? Do you use it in your business?
That's a whole different topic.
We'll talk about it another day.
Yeah,
get it.
I've talked about so many, but Vegas to give you Vegas. I think that Vegas is from a real estate standpoint. I look at single family, so I'm not like the commercial expert, but supply is dropping, so that's always good. If rates drop, then you're going to see more buyers come in, and I think it'll slightly be better than last year, but nothing crazy.
So final question for you, Ryan. If you had one piece of advice you would give a new entrepreneur, let's say somebody in their 20s, whether it's a real estate agent or somebody starting a business, what is something you would tell them to do if you just met them at a coffee shop?
An entrepreneur, I would tell them they have to learn how to sell. There's literally no other skill that matters when you're first starting out. You got to sell. You got to generate revenue. Get people to buy whatever it is that you sell.
Get around salesmanship. That's a perfect one. All right, Ryan, thanks for taking the time. We just hit about an hour, so I appreciate you letting me use the studio and taking the hour with me. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you coming by.
Cool. Perfect.
Good job.